Recording.
Okay, now
okay, there it is. Good morning to you. It's breakfast coffee with Christy and Joan. I'm the Joan part. You know, it's Joan, the ice cream cone, or Joni, full of baloney, whichever one works. So we're having coffee with us, and here's my morning coffee. See this beautiful cup? I don't know if it shows, but that's the last picture. That's Elise, my granddaughter, and David, and they were over Christmas in 2001, and he passed February 2002, and so, but in this week he was up getting his chemo for lung cancer, and all of a sudden he goes kaboom. He died on the chemo chair. His doctor comes running in and says, "Oh my God, I know everything about cancer. I don't know about heart attacks." He called 911 and had the ambulance take him to the hospital, which was right next door. They could have taken him over there themselves, but they didn't, because you get served faster if the 911 brings you in. You're at the head of the line. So they brought David in. He was at the head of the line. They asked me if I wanted the paddles on him. I said, "Oh yeah." So they put the paddles on him. Nothing happened. So they brought him in. They did some other stuff they didn't let me by. Then they said, well, he was a goner. They wrote it down.
And you were there when he died, right?
And
did you get to see him pass away? Not
that time.
Okay.
And so they put that. Now he was already gone, and he was laying on a chrome low level thing, just about the height of a chair.
The table, right?
He had he had nothing on, just a towel over his enchilada, and I didn't take a peek. Too bad. And so he's laying there, and I'm sitting next to him. They even sent in a volunteer lady to talk to the poor wives whose husbands had passed. And I said, no, I didn't need to talk to her. For some reason, I just figured he wasn't gone. So I reached down after 20 minutes. I reached down to him, and I said, "Okay, David, you've been gone long enough. You can come back now." And he goes, "Oh, ooh." And I said, "Oh my gosh, David, you were gone so long." I said, What? Did you see the white light? Did you visit God?" He said, "No." He said, "Some guy in a red suit with a tail was chasing him." Now last week, here's the
David, okay? That's David.
And the other gorgeous broad, that's me.
And that's the painting up there that I copied. See? But I made my mom's hair too dark. But anyway, this is when they worked at the Broadway. That's another story. They were over there at the Broadway jewelry, buying jewelry.
So last week I was at my regular doctor's office. Well, I hadn't been there for 8 months. So in comes a little student doctor. He had already had 2 degrees. He was studied with. He had one thing on that he'd gotten a master's at Harvard. So I thought, oh dear, that poor dumb kid. So I thought, well, my doctor's not going to remember me. And he said, oh, I think he will. He pretty much remembers his patients. So in comes my regular doctor. My regular doctor says, hi and everything to me. And he says, tell this student kid here about your husband. I said, oh, what do you want me to tell about him? And he said, well, tell about him when the one on the table. I said, oh. So I told him that story about him already dying, and here he had written that in a little episode on my chart.
It's the best, funniest dying story there is. Okay, David was so funny. Oh my God! One time he goes, "Okay, Christy, come in here," and I go, "Yeah." He goes, I want you to go down to the store and get me some Hershey Kisses. And I go, okay. And he goes, well, I want the female ones. And I go, the female ones? He goes, you know, the ones without the nuts.
Yeah, you are kidding.
But talking about Hershey's, okay, this is my story that happened. They have to have Hershey Kisses every day, okay? He'd get 10, and they both get 10. So I go down to my church, and they had this guy there who could speak to people from the other side. And I'm like going, okay. So my girlfriend and I went down there, and we were going to go see if my best friend Lola would come through, because her daughter found me, and so here we are. So we're sitting in the back, and we're just, you know, waiting to see. There was at least 100 people there. And this guy is, I guess, really good at this. He's got that ability. So all of a sudden he goes, Hershey's. And I go, oh my God, it's David. Then he goes, motorcycles. And my brother's the ultimate motocross guy. The whole family's motorcycles. And Deegan, and they're all. So he goes, motorcycles. And I'm going, oh my God, it's my brother Greg. Then he goes, ladybug. And I go, ladybug, what's ladybug? Well, I had a ring that, was in my father's pool, and there was ladybugs in there and made love, and they flew out, and I was watching them. And then I wrote a story, The Legend of the Elfins, and there's Mrs. Ladybugs, and I go, well, maybe that's it. So then we come back and we tell the story, what happened. Everybody's like, oh my God. And we tell Kathy, Greg's wife, you know, what happened. And she goes, oh my goodness, I'm writing a book called The Ladybug. So if that's not validation, okay, out of 100 people, and it's Hershey's, it's motorcycle, and it's ladybug, I don't know, okay? Anyway, I just had to tell that was an interesting little story.
Yeah, you are kidding. I'd go to the grocery store, he'd lock the door, put a sign with written on just a piece of paper, no kisses, no Hershey's, no getting in the house. I'd have to pull out of the bag my bag of Hershey Kisses.
2 chocoholics, but they were on limited. Okay, we only can have 10.
I'd count them out. He'd get so mad because he'd sit there and eat the whole bag. So that's good. So this is the week he passed 17 years ago.
Wow.
So he lived for another 10 days, and he couldn't lay down to breathe. So we just sat in a chair, both of us. And he was in his recliner, and it was in a regular just sitting chair. And both of us sat up for 10 days. Oh my goodness, no wonder we could hardly. Then the next time he had a nosebleed, and it just kept bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. I thought, oh my gosh. I said, honey, I don't think I can handle this. And so I called, I took him down to the hospital. The hospital was only, a few blocks away, and it was a cancer specialist hospital. But I didn't take him to the hospital one. I took him to the regular one. They didn't pay any attention to his nosebleed. He was so mad. Well, of course, they knew what they were doing. So in retrospect, I imagine it was probably, maybe it was hemorrhaging. But anyhow, so I got to, they had him in the hospital in ICU, and they let me stay. They let me stay with him for till 1 o'clock at night, and just sitting there in the chair next to him. And then they sent me home, and then they called at 7 o'clock in the morning to tell me to get back down there. Well, I didn't even wake up. Who phones me then was Gretchen, my other daughter Gretchen, who was David's favorite, no doubt, because she was a horsewoman, and we had racehorses. And and so I get up there. Christy and Greg and Kathy got down there too, and he just hung on, and just holding his hand and all that stuff, and he hung on till Gretchen got there. She had to drive all the way from Pismo Beach and to Corona, California, and she got there, and she was only there just a few minutes, and he took our hands and said, "I love you," and passed in my arms.
Beautiful.
So that was wonderful. We we had such a wonderful time. But we sure did have. He sure was a funny guy. Even at the last minute, he was stayed.
Oh my
And
God!
was so funny.
The funniest death story, that return to life story. Oh yeah, the devil was.
Yeah, he saw
with the man with the red suit and the tail chasing me.
Oh my gosh!
God, that's so funny, man.
So the doctors, all my doctors know that story.
Oh God, everybody knows that story. It's the funniest story. I've told it so many times too. It just makes everybody laugh. Like, you know, I mean, can you imagine 20 minutes you're gone and, honey, you can come back now.
But he never saw the light. Doggone it, I wanted him to.
Well, now he did.
Now he's up there, and we know good and well that was Greg and David were sitting there on a cloud watching us and looking down there when Christy was with that guy. Who else would have kisses? Hershey's and the motorcycles.
And a ladybug.
And a ladybug.
But after he passed,
all of the same thing.
I was staying at your house, and I knew it was David because there was a beautiful glass, hand-blown object, whatever it's called, this beautiful thing in the window, and there's no breath, there's no wind, and all of a sudden I'm thinking of David, and it starts going back and forth. I'm going, oh my God, it's David. Then we take a picture. I had done my mom's makeup and did this beautiful, beautiful picture in the backyard by the plant, by the orange tree that they had gotten. And remember what happened, Mom, in the picture?
Oh, yeah. Christy took a whole roll of photos. And that tree, when he died, I wanted to get something to commemorate him. So I bought a little orange tree. It got one orange on it. So now we took a chair, and Christy got a new camera and took a whole roll of pictures, and every picture came out just beautiful, and that one had a big round cloud right behind my head.
Beautiful white light.
The only photo that had that big cloud.
With the orange tree.
With the orange tree. So there he was saying,
okay,
I see my oranges.
So David looked just like Jack Lemmon in Grumpy Old Men. If you look at that movie, it's David. We all laugh. So the other night, I had a dream about Jack Lemmon, right? And I go, it's David, right? So next thing you know, I'm laying in my room, my cell phone sitting on my dresser. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I hear clunk. And I go, what was that? So I wake up in the morning, the cell phone was on the floor. So this is right when I had the dream, okay? So I knew it was David again. So that was another funny thing.
So I've got some neat photos, but this is the photo from work, and I always have it with me. It's a little hard to get in my wallet, but it's such a neat picture, and so I love this picture. So my goodness, 17 years ago he was
it's gone. Unbelievable, isn't it? And so also this is really my favorite one. I think it's when I took. And they were at Gretchen's house and by the truck. And this was a little tiny picture.
Well, that was
and I blew it up. And so this is how it came out. Isn't that cute? It's like, that's David. That's how much he was always loving on my mother. They were so happy. The cutest couple ever. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was there's a whole big photograph, and Christy was a good 50 feet away and took that picture of the whole truck, and we didn't even know that they were taking pictures of the kids all riding horses, and then she got real fancy and cut that out and blew that all up, and there it is, one of my very favorite pictures.
And this one, okay.
Here's another picture. These are my three favorite photos.
And where were you going? Look at this.
Oh yeah, see there.
You got the tux on and the beautiful dress.
So I've got a picture of outside by the truck. I've got a picture of at work, and this one's at our place there, our condo in California.
So where were you guys going?
So we had to rent that tuxedo for David. Our boss was being honored by the City of Hope, and he was the very first retailer to ever be so honored. He was quite a guy. I love those guys. So I said, if we're going to pay $65 for one evening wearing a tuxedo, I'm getting a picture of you. And he says, no, he said, all my photos, I look like a Nazi spy. So he wouldn't. I'm standing back, taking the picture, and he wouldn't smile. So I said, come on, smile. He said, no. I mean, he put a little tiny little smile on his face. So I said, do you wanna? And I said the F word, which he about fell over and laughed. And that's the moment he laughed, because I probably only said it 4 times in my whole life. That wasn't a word in my vocabulary.
Oh, that'd make him smile, okay?
So that made him laugh. He never mind the, and then
I gotta get a good shot of that smile.
We weren't married at the time. I have cut myself out in the other photo with an X-Acto knife and set me there so it'd be us together, because we were just alone. A photo of him and a photo of me, and I cut it out and stuck it on there together so it would be the two of us. Oh my goodness, did we have a lot of laughs? We laughed every day of our life, and we always laughed at the hospital things. One time he was in the hospital, and he said, because he had really bad emphysema, and so when he got lung cancer, that was why they couldn't do it. I mean, if they would have just had a surgery and took the tumor out, but that's what cigarettes will do to you. And both of my husbands both smoked when I met them, but they ended up quitting because that's what I wanted. That's how sweet they were.
And also, I was going to say, Mom, look at this picture. This is when David would walk around with his Marine hat on because he was a Marine.
Has he got a hat on there?
Yeah, this is the one of him and his hat.
But let me see.
This one.
Oh yeah, we took great bubble baths. We love bubble baths, and we took them together. So you know what? And he even wore that in the bath. Once a Marine, always a Marine. We'd drive down the coast of California, and he'd say, "See that mountain? See that mountain? I walked over that mountain." And then we'd drive a little bit farther, and he'd say, "See that one? I walked over that one too."
Tell him about when you guys were running out of gas.
Oh well, I started out as a little salesgirl. Well, I soon took care of that. Well, it did take a couple of years, but I ended up being an executive with the company. There was only 3 of us, and I was one of the 3. So
we'll tell that whole story later. But
anyhow, we're on our way. I opened new stores, so new malls, and so we're going down the 5 freeway in California. And back in the olden days, the 5 freeway was just a solid freeway going through nothing land. Nothing land, no little stores, no off ramps, no nothing, but one off ramp with a gas station. So we pulled off the gas. We pulled off to get our gas.
You're totally out of gas, right?
Yeah. No, not then. We're not out of gas.
Oh, okay.
So we pulled off to get gas, and but we have to get our candy because they didn't have any kisses. So we're both walking on either side of this big place, big counter with candy bars. I'm picking out 5 candy bars because this trip's going to take a few hours. He's picking out 5 candy bars. So we each get our 5 candy bars. We get back in the car. We take off. We're driving. Now we have to turn left because we're heading up to San Francisco from Long Beach. So we turn from the 5 freeway to go left to go towards San Francisco. He says, "Oh my gosh, we forgot to get gas. We got our candy bars, but we forgot to get gas." So we're going down the hill, and he says, "Now mark that." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because that's one of the places that they take care of the fires. What do you call that place? Along along shows an arrow to go in there to where Smokey the Bear lived.
Right, right.
He said, mark that off in case you have to walk back to get some gas. And so we keep going down. Fortunately, we're on the top of the mountain, the top of the hill, so we can, coast down. So we keep coasting. There's no gas stations or anything. Now then, here's a big sign that says Enco gas. And he says, oh, I don't use that kind.
Exo, right?
So of course,
I don't like that kind.
So he pulled into it in his shirt sleeves, and everybody looked at him and laughed because they've all got puffy jackets on because being in the car all that time from Southern California, we didn't know it was cold up there.
I don't like that kind of gas.
Oh, my God.
We have 2 drips left.
But we had our candy bars, and he had me marked down where I could go to if I had to walk back.
Oh, God, that was so funny. Yeah, in case you got Smokey the Bear.
So here one time he's in the hospital, and he gets up and he says, I'm going home and he said, my wife takes better care of me than you guys do. And the nurse said, no, you can't go home. He said, you just watch me. So he sat there and got dressed in front of the nurse. She says, no. He pulled out all the plugs in him and stuff. And she said, no. Well, fortunately, his doctor came around the bend and said, oh, let him go home. I'll send a nurse home with him. So he got dressed. We got to go home. The nurse came with us with the thing to hold with the IVs in his arm. And I put the stuff in for 2 weeks. I did that, and I put the things in the in the IV. And so I would say, I'd hold the IV up here and I'd say, okay, I'm blowing bubbles in it. Let's see if you can take that, big boy. So now then another day passed by and I'd say, okay, I put a little feces in it this time. I want to see how tough you really are. So I'm telling you, we just laughed. And they use all those things the doctors do because they now know that laughter is will help cancer better than any
Absolutely, laughter is the best medicine. They say it's true.
But they now know that because they have that in their dealies. Now, oh my goodness, that reminds me of a story of when I had a hysterectomy. I'm in my late 30s and I'm a pretty cute chick in those days, and So we had I was always involved with little theater and for charity, and I sang in a number of different groups. Well, one group that I was doing a show on stage with, I had some Rams football players back in the 60s, and when they were located in Long Beach, and
they were all good friends
in Long Beach, California, and so. I have had a hysterectomy and I'm in bed, and I've told my doctor that I was teaching these Rams to dance to Singing in the Rain, and I said, here's these big guys, and I've got like 4 of them that I'm teaching to do the Singing in the Rain while the girls did the dance with umbrellas and raincoats on and stuff, and so here I am sitting in my bed at the hospital. I've had a hysterectomy. And I didn't know the other doctor, but there were 2 doctors in the office. And my doctor was adorable. And here they come from both sides of the door. I'm in a bed in the middle back here, and they're a great big opening doorway into my room. And in comes the one doctor on this side, another doctor on that side, and they both are singing in the rain, and they come in from both sides. They come walking in there singing in the rain. So
was that one of your shows, or
no? That was one of the shows I did. But the doctors and me telling them about it, they came in and did that to me.
Oh God, that's right. I forgot that one.
That was so cute. Those doctors were just.
But you were really friends with the real Rams when you were at the beach with Dad.
Yeah, well, these were real Rams.
They were real Rams. Okay,
yes,
I didn't know. Oh my God.
Yes, I was teaching them the dance because you get more money for charity if you got.
I didn't know that one.
Rams dancing in there, so because they were training in Long Beach, so it wasn't far for them to come over to Orange County. And
so when we were little at the beach with Dad and the sun worshipers, and so they would use Kurt to exercise with, my little brother Kurt, and they would up and down the arms. And remember?
They'd hold him and do the lifts, and they'd have him standing up on the roof of the lifeguard shack, and then he'd jump off, and they'd catch him and stuff, and do all this stuff. And he was only like 3 years old, 4 or 5 years old. It was really fun. So that's why we're such Rams fans. Then they left and went to St. Louis.
Who were the Rams? What was their names
again?
Now
they're coming back. So Roman Gabriel was the quarterback, and so now you're throwing these names at me. I can't.
It's okay. We forget names, but Tommy McDonald
But Tommy McDonald was my favorite. He had come from the Eagles, and he's a big. It was the end of his career, but oh my gosh.
Cliff Livingston.
See, Cliff was our main friend, and that's why we got to be. He had already retired from. He was a roommate of Frank Gifford, played with the Giants, and then he was picked up from Minnesota, and he retired from the Vikings.
So
then he retired, and the Rams called him back, and he ended up being captain of the defense. So all these guys were his buddies, and that's why they all came down.
Well, he used to be able to go down and sit with the wives at the games and everything. And
well, we did because we were friends with with the team. So
right, and Kurt got to go in the locker room.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. A little 4-year-old walking around waist level with all those big Rams in the shower.
What's that? His eyes come out all big, like whoa.
No, I didn't think of any of that stuff. But they did. That's why we will always be Rams fans.
Oh my God! Well, Gretchen and Kurt are the ultimate Rams fans. Ultimate. Oh my God!
And of course, back in those days, I mean, Gretchen is now, but back in those days, my sister-in-law Evelyn and I were. We were all great Rams fans because we knew them all. But that's in the day before drugs. No cheating on wives and all that sort of stuff. It was a different time back in the 50s and 60s. So anyhow, it was a fun time. We really did.
So let's do with David. You guys used to be you were together. You met at the Belkeith Jewelers where you were both managers, right?
No. I wasn't a manager. Are you kidding? I was a little salesman.
You were still a salesman.
I was about to leave because I was getting a big 85 cents an hour, and the phone company offered me $1.25. So I thought, well, why should I stay here? But you did get commission, so I really enjoyed the jewelry company, and so now David came over. I went out to his store when we were doing an inventory, and he had the lady go. One of his employees take me upstairs to lunch at the counter. They had a little dining room upstairs at the Broadway department store, which those stores are now Macy's. So if you happen to be in California and you see a Macy's, it was a Broadway, and I opened the fine jewelry department. But in those days, I was just a sales girl, and I was about to leave and go with the phone company. So David. He told the lady to find out how far away I lived. Well, I only lived 15 miles from the Anaheim store, and so wouldn't you know, the very next week I had the big boss was down, and he offered me $1.25 and would I go over and transfer over to that store? And David and I have been together ever since. We were together 30 years.
Oh, but God.
The first year, that's when I was planning on divorcing Vaughn, and we weren't together. And but that first year I'm over at David's store. I'm picking out new wedding rings and all that stuff because we.
Oh my God!
Thought we'd get back together, but
and then when he proposed to you, tell him about how he did it with the roses.
Well, I wish I had the card. I can't remember. I'm getting so old. My
Well,
gosh. Can you imagine? 87, almost 88, and I'm starting to forget a few things. I don't
No, when
know
he came
why.
with the roses.
But I know that.
Well, I was going to say, that's a really good story.
But when my David proposed,
yes.
we had always, for many, many years, 17 years, we had gone out on Christmas Eve. We went to that restaurant in Southern California with a big black stairs. Sure, now I started to say the name of it and I can't think.
It's okay.
Anyhow, we went to that restaurant on Christmas Eve after the store closed. Back in those days, you closed at 6 o'clock Christmas Eve. Now they're open 24 hours, these poor salespeople. Anyhow, I'm just a little, so we went out. He's living at my condo there, where we had those pictures with the tuxedo on, and we went out to a dinner at the Black Angus is the name of the restaurant, and so we went out to dinner after the store closed at 6 o'clock. I said, "Gee," you haven't written me any poems lately or brought me any flowers. I said, "Boy," I guess the romance is waning." So now we went home. And he's sitting on the couch, and he gives me one present, beautiful, gorgeous ring. See, if I'd known I was going to do this, I'd have shown him to you. A beautiful pearl ring, and I opened that, and then he gave me another. Had me open another package. It was a beautiful pearl thing to hang on there that matched the ring, and to hang on my existing pearls. And, of course, everything we had was real. We did 14-karat gold or
fine jewelry.
Or 18-karat gold, and was real. They don't even do things in 14-karat
So what happened?
Gold anymore. So he gave me those two beautiful presents. Then he gave me a card. And the card, I opened the card, and you open it inside. He used to write me poems all the time. And here's a poem saying, "I've seen them all. The large and the small, the short and the tall. I've seen them all, and Joan, you are the best. Will you, mama, marry me?" And I said, "What?" And he was down on one knee in front of the couch, and he pulls from behind the couch that he'd already hidden a beautiful bouquet of roses with 15 roses on it, and a crisp $100 bill wrapped around each rose. And he said, I didn't want to pick out a ring because I want us to pick it out together. And he said, we can get it wholesale.
Oh my God! So what did you do when he did that? When he gave you the roses?
Well, I took off the $100 bills, and we went and picked out a ring, and I said yes.
And then you got married at the condo.
And so, we got married at the condo. They had a beautiful little recreation room that we rented, and my sister-in-law, Evelyn, married to divorced from Vaughn's brother, and she fixed all the food and all that stuff.
And then all her girlfriends, the singers, the most incredible singing groups that she was in, the Evergreens. And we've got pictures of them too, tons of pictures.
Yeah, so they one of the guys that they hadn't seen for a while, when we opened the door, they grabbed his hand and said, "We're singing." He said, "What?" He said, "We're singing." That was Glenn, who had been my partner. So yes, that was fun.
The group.
So I'm the only one other gal named Sally, Nurse Sally. She used to come over and massage and fix poor Kurt's wounds from playing sports and stuff. And so Nurse Sally and I are the only ones left out of all that gang of people.
So the wedding was so incredible. My sister has to bring the wedding cake all the way from Palmdale to Westminster. And so what, she have it in the trunk?
Well, they had this big giant storm. Some of the people couldn't even get there because it was flooded out, and they shut the airport down in Seattle. Kurt couldn't fly out because of the airport, and poor Gretchen had to drive all the way down.
It was totally raining.
The mountainside of this big rain, and she's got the wedding cake in the back of her car, and she just thought, oh my gosh, it's gonna slide up and smash, and all that stuff.
So
But,
it made it. It made it. But the wedding was so beautiful. My brother Greg and Gretchen and me. Kurt couldn't make it, but it was in the front room, and there was the minister, and everybody was all crowded around. All her girlfriends, all the singers, and their husbands, and all her friends, and it was just the most beautiful service. And then they turned around and kissed, and we went, yay! We all started clapping and everything. It was so neat.
Well, this terrible, terrible rain, it was supposed to be in the backyard under an arch.
Yeah.
And this horrible rain, we had to be in the house, and nobody was invited to a wedding. They were only invited to what they thought was going to be a party. Well, of course, the word spread that we were getting married, so they knew it was. But I kept telling David, no, we're not having a wedding. It's just going to be a party after we say the vows. That people aren't invited to the wedding. Well, it ended up about 50 people showed up for the
totally
wedding.
Totally squished in there. People were
in this little tiny condo, and the other 50 ended up coming to the party. So even though it was pouring rain, 105 people managed to get there, and the other bunch couldn't even couldn't get out because some of the friends lived in Laguna and stuff. And they couldn't the roads are flooded. They couldn't drive. And even my one granddaughter Erica, they shut down that freeway that Gretchen drove down with the wedding cake. They shut it down. So Erica, they were about to leave and they couldn't leave, so she didn't get to come because the freeway was closed.
So anyway, I was going to say her girlfriends sang the most beautiful. What were they singing back there?
Oh, well, then my one girlfriend that had been I really mentored a lot of people because she had just was a heavy gal, and she had worn men's pants and a t-shirt and that stuff, and her name was Shar. And I had made her get into beautiful clothes and sing in the. See, we had piano bars in those days. This is before karaoke, and so she sang a beautiful "Wind Beneath My Wings."
And what did your girlfriend sing back in the back?
And otherwise, we sang wedding.
I can't remember the song they sang.
They sang. Well, see, I can't either now. They sang 2 songs.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. Their harmony is just incredible.
Yeah, we ended up. So.
Well, we'll tell all the stories about all her singing. That's just tons of wonderful stories of her shows, and oh my God.
Yeah, that's all.
So anyway, we're talking about David.
Yeah, so he's been gone now 17 years this week, and so he knows we're talking about him. I figure I see him somewhere. Do
the lights, David. Do the lights.
So click them off and on.
But we know he hangs around. He comes in and out all the time.
He knows it, but he did. In Jack Lemon's later years. So we got a lot of comps because people thought he was Jack Lemmon. He never said he was. They never said he was. But we had racehorses, so we spent a lot of time in Las Vegas, and we would watch them up on the big. When we knew they had no chance, we just quarter horses, not.
Oh, I thought of a funny story with the racehorse, and he gets all the friends to watch it, and what happens? Tell about that story.
Oh, when everybody's there to watch it, and our horse stood in the gate. That one.
Yeah.
And he didn't come out. The horse stood there in the gate because it had never run at night, and it was all the night lights. And it stood there and didn't even come out of the gate.
Didn't it go backwards?
And so.
What about the one that went backwards?
And so he never came out of the gate, and so that horse was David was so stunned that he didn't speak for 3 days. Then that same horse stood and came out sideways, all around. Sideways. So that horse ended up in Gretchen's backyard. She got to have that horse, and that one had a few crazy tales.
Is that the one where Gretchen got on it and it took off?
Gretchen rode it.
And it's going through the streets and Gretchen's hanging on. Ah!
Oh my gosh. She had we always gave her our racehorses. And so she had his name was Copy Come Back. And it was sired out of a horse named Duplicate Copy.
And then
who
got
was a
Judy.
winner.
You had Judy. Judy was Judy Garland.
Well, we got one horse that was just beautiful, and that one we didn't get to race. That one was to just ride, but it had such beautiful, beautiful brown eyes. We named it Judy after Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. Oh my God! But David would always just have so much money. He was going to gamble, and he was like the total gambler. But he would come back with all this money.
Oh well, no, he had a separate fund because he'd been gambling all his life. He was from Detroit when he was a baby, and all his people.
His aunt and uncle. He was raised with this.
Were horse gamblers, and so he could read off numbers and do subtraction and addition and everything faster than you could do it on a computer. And people were always amazed because he'd been doing all that math since he was a little baby. But even before I knew him, he took off work for a whole year and did nothing but play the horses. So he didn't gamble on everything, just horses. He was oh gosh, I can't now. The words slip my mind.
It's okay.
And
but anyway, he was
a gambler. Gambles on everything. He was a horse player.
Yes,
and he had his own money, not any part of our.
Well, yeah, he handled all that.
That had nothing to do with it.
But
One night I was already in bed, and he was up at the racetrack, and he came home and threw all this money on the bed. He'd won $17,000.
Oh my God, $17,000!
And he just threw it all on the.
Oh my God, $17,000!
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know it was that much.
So,
now that's a win.
Oh
my goodness, that's amazing.
But we ended up, I ended up being the silent partner.
Yeah.
And
but you guys
we won some races, which is unusual because people usually own them for a long time. And our boss was our boss's partner, which is why the company was named Bellegarde. No, our company was named Belle Keith. And the reason it was named Belle Keith is because Jerry Bellegarde and the other fellow's name was something Keith. And he left the jewelry business and became a big racehorse owner.
So David and Mom were the managers. We have so many stories about that. Oh my God, about their adventures being jewelry people.
Oh well,
that's a whole big story in itself.
My working, yeah. I started out, as I say, the little sales girl, and then.
And I told her that you can do it, Mom.
Oh yeah, that's when I was all afraid to go to work, but that was at Penny's, not at the Broadway.
Well, still, so I told you could do it.
Christy took me by the hand, and I said, "Oh, I just don't know." I was. So she said, "You could do it. You could do it."
So she turns out to be the #1 executive woman of the whole corporation.
Back in that day, they didn't have women. You couldn't own anything.
Yes.
This is back in the day when we couldn't own a house in our own name. We couldn't have a credit card in our name.
This is before women.
All that stuff back in the 60s.
In the 70s even.
Well, yeah, but I'm involved in the 60s.
Yeah.
And
But anyway, this is all, oh my goodness, the wonderful stories about her being the executive is just so fantastic. She opened all the stores.
The men wouldn't take any orders from me, and of course I'm their boss, and I'm talking to the architects. I said no. I said this wall has got to be 6 inches over. Oh, they'd look at me. What do you know, lady? I said, listen, it's got to be 6 inches over because the safe, the door, there's a 6-inch wide door. It's got to fit in this part. Oh, what do you know? So they built the whole Broadway department store. Guess what? They had to knock down that wall and move it 6 inches, 6 inches over.
But she would decorate all these beautiful cases. I mean, she did the most beautiful. Oh my God, with the corals and she just beautiful. She's such an artist. She's a total decorator. Oh my God.
Well, that's a whole nother story.
So we're talking about David. Anyway, it's David. We keep going off. But there's just so many David stories. It's just
so he was a perfect He was so when it came to numbers, he was absolutely perfect. As I say, you couldn't do anything. Well, we had a thief in the store, in one of the stores, and it was David's store where he was the manager. He ended up being the supervisor of 50 stores, but at that time he was the manager of the Anaheim Broadway, and they called him up at the upstairs to the office, and we are not part of that chain. We are part of a different, owned by a different company, but that's still the way it is with most of the department stores. Well, the world has changed in the department store business, but anyhow, they called him up and said, "You're $200 short in this your money bag last night." Well, it just so happened he had closed the night before. He said, "No, we're not." And they said, "Yes, you're $200 short." He said, "No, we are not $200 short. You better look over these cameras up in the ceiling." Sure enough, there was this one guy that was stealing out of the money bags that get turned up at night in the department store, and that guy didn't know he picked the wrong store when he picked the wrong department when he picked ours to steal $200 out of. They caught him. He went out of the store in handcuffs, and he'd been stealing for a month.
Oh my God!
So he never made a mistake. I mean, he was
another funny.
He was so perfect, and so this one time there was a mistake. So I wrapped this big box with ribbons and stuff on it and put it on. He came into work, and here's a present for David, and all the workers are around. They wonder what it is. I had wrapped the mistake in a box, so when he opened it, he thought he's getting a present. And it was his mistake. I think it was probably the only mistake he ever made. Oh
my God. What was the story when he was in Vegas and he's standing on the corner? What happened?
Oh, well.
Oh, God.
Gosh, oh my gosh, that's the funniest story.
What happened?
Oh my gosh. We're at Caesar's having their Sunday morning brunch. And back in those days, it was a big deal, $15 for a brunch, where you could get Denny's up the street for $1. Anyhow, so we finally went to the brunch. And everybody is sitting real close, elbow to elbow. And so across from us is a doctor and his wife. Well, that's who we're chatting with. Now then, the doctor said, "I'm not going to sit here and pay $15, and I can't even pick up a cup of coffee." He said, "I'm going, Whatever. David said, "Well, I agree." So those two men left, and the wife and I were left. Now, everybody is emptying out the restaurant or the big, they're having the meal in the big giant room, the Sunday brunch. So the doctor's wife and I are left because the big doors had slammed shut. And we thought, what in the world was that? They had slammed shut. Well, finally, one of the waitresses came and sat with us. And she said, you ladies are going to have to leave. So the whole place is empty. And us ladies walked out. And there's the two men, the doctor and David, waiting there. What in the world are you doing? So we came out. Now then, there had been a flash flood. Well, we didn't know it. We were sitting in that room with the big door, and that's why those big giant doors slammed shut, is because a big gust of wind came through the Caesar's Palace and slammed those doors shut. So now we are staying at the MGM, which is kitty corner across from Caesar's Palace. So the street, of course, is flooded. Well, we have to walk back towards the back of Caesar's. This goes up at a little bit of a hill, and to get across the street. So we get across the street. The dunes, which is no longer there, was sitting there. Well, we went and sat on the planter. Was a brick planter up high enough to sit on. So we sat on that. Other people are paying the cab drivers $5 to drive them across the street.
Because it's so flooded, right?
Yeah, because it's so flooded, you can't walk. So David's not going to pay $5 to drive across the street. So we're sitting on the planter box. And we sit there probably about an hour just watching everything that's going on. Now the water is receding. The water is receding out around and going down because the flash flood is over. We never were in rain. That had already happened. So now the water is at the curb. Well, he goes down and checks out the situation, and he notices that when a car drives past, the water recedes, and you can jump over that bit of water by the curb. So he watches that and watches that, has it all calculated. Okay, he can do it because he's not taking his shoes off and walking barefoot across any street. His feet were so tender, they'd never been without a sock or something on in his life. So I'm sitting there on the platter watching the whole thing. What's going on? Well, now he's standing at the curb. He's watching this very carefully. And the cars are going by. The water recedes. He can jump over. He's about to jump, and around the corner comes a cab, goes through the water that has receded, and splashes the water just like a movie all over him from head to toe. He walks across the street, and I'm dying laughing. He never spoke. He never spoke again for a whole day. Oh, it was so funny.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
that was the famous water scene.
Just sit up, yeah.
That was the famous water
my
scene.
God.
And I'm laughing for a whole day. And
I could just see the whole splash. Whoa!
It was just like a movie. It really splashed this thing up on himself. And he had been calculating that for a whole hour. Oh, my gosh. And that cab came around right by the curb.
God, that's so funny. Oh, my God.
And I've already got my pants rolled up and carrying my shoes.
Oh,
so I didn't get wet. Oh, my God. I'm dying laughing.
Well, listen, we're up to 51 minutes here. So let's just...
I've been known to talk for 48 hours.
Well, we'll do plenty more of these, but I think we better stop here.
This was a tribute to my David because he passed 17 years ago this week.
Yeah, so we're gonna
both times when he died, both times. So there you go.
So anyway, say goodbye, Mom.
See you tomorrow, and I'm gonna have finish my coffee, and I have a cookie, a Milano cookie
every day.
One cookie with a cup of coffee early in the morning. That's my morning ritual for the last 25 years.
So now I'm going to go make her breakfast.
Christy brings me my coffee, nice and fresh, beautiful coffee. I didn't even have my first coffee till I was in my 50s. when I'm an executive and I've got to be at these fancy meetings with all these millionaires, and I was too shy to say, I drink tea. So I just started sipping coffee. Consequently, I take it with cream and sugar because I didn't want to have a sour face with all these men. Because women were not executives in those days.
No, she was it. I mean, she's a trailblazer, okay? I mean, that's just amazing. To start as a little sales girl. And
for 85 cents an hour.
And end up being the big corporate executive that opens up 50 stores. I mean, God, they loved her. She was everything to them. Gosh. She was the best.
I love my job.
It was so great.
The head guys never, ever even knew how many hours I put in.
Oh, she would just work.
I never had a time card. So I just, they just knew that whatever I was doing, it was okay with them.
Oh, man, so, carte blanche. Here's your credit card. Go and do whatever. And she would dress the most beautiful outfits every day. Oh, my God, we've got all the clothes
so I still have some of these clothes that are 30 years old.
Oh, my gosh. We've got them in the closet. We're going to just...
I'm going to have to get rid of them, I'm telling you.
No, we're going to save them. But anyway, the jewelry, she's got the most beautiful jewelry and rings, and David got her, and oh my God. I mean,
by the way, I think I might have mentioned it before. I could see my hair with that. Actually, and Christy doesn't remember, but she gave David that painting for his 60th birthday.
Right.
And at the time, she told me she wasn't finished with my hair. So I think she was going to put some highlights in it and just never got to it.
Well, there is, but you can't see it from there. There's still... I think it looks beautiful.
I love that photo. It looks just exactly like him. And sometimes,
let me tell you about it.
Sometimes I think it talks to me.
Well, let me tell you something about the painting. What I did, I called it the Hershey Kisser and his Honey Bunny. And I put on the tie Hershey Kisses And on the necklace, I made a bunny on the bottom. And so it's the Hershey Kisser and the Honey Bunny because my mom is the ultimate bunny collector. And David would always buy her a bunny all the time.
Well, that's a story that has Kurt involved. But I wore pearls practically every day. And the first thing at 85 cents an hour, first thing I put on layaway.
Let me see if I can get a better shot of it.
The first thing that I put on layaway and made payments for at 85 cents an hour was real pearls.
So I hope you can see this.
I love pearls. The Hershey Kisser and his Honey Bunny.
That's what it is. And it was from that picture when they were working at...
we were doing an inventory, hence the inventory's over, and that's why his tie's undone and stuff.
So anyway, okay.
See you tomorrow with more coffee.
So bye. That was me talking. Okay. Say bye, Mom.
Bye. I'm going to go have my coffee and eat my cookie.
And what day? What's today? The day after the
Today's the day after the sad Super Bowl. So
what's
it's February 4th, 2019.
Okay, so now we know. And I'm 69 and Mom's 87.
Yes, I know I could probably pass for 85.
You can. I can pass for 67. Okay, so we're going to let it go now. And we're saying goodbye for now. We'll do many, many more. We got a lot of good stories this time. Okay, bye.